teacups, what's brewing? Welcome back to the channel. Pleasure to have you here as always. I'm a little bit late, it's 10 to 7 at the moment, so I'm hoping I can get this edited and up. Today we're going to be recapping just a little part of Foodie's live grocery haul, because I am putting myself through that whole thing on camera. And then we're going to go into her now deleted, I do believe, Schooling Haters ASMR. Isn't it funny how much attitude she puts out only to not stand by it later? But anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. So I'm not covering all of the grocery live because there wasn't that much in it past the obvious. She did do her sugars on stream. Her sugars were 11.6. It had been a few hours since apparently she'd had her KFC. So her sugars are still very high considering she's medicated. Definitely not as high as the insanity when she wasn't medicated of like 24, but 11.6 medicated on the maximum amount of medication. And apparently her doctor told her, oh, go up to 3,000 if you need to. I think 11.6 should still be pretty concerning, but as with anything, when Foodie loses the immediate fear or thinks that she can justify, okay, well, it's getting better, which is something we're going to talk about, then she loses the will to do anything about it, and now we're back in mukbangs. With the doctor saying, okay, take more, if what she says is to be believed, it could have something to do with her weight. I know when I was at my heaviest, I went to a clinic. I was visiting Malaysia, and I was quite sick. I was going to visit a friend, and I was just KO'd for most of the trip. It was awful. But I went to the doctor, and I was like, look, I need some help here. And he was like, okay, no problem, take these. But then he was like quite apologetic, but he's like, you're over this weight, right? Okay, I'm going to prescribe you more of these because, you know, your body size just means medication works differently. So it may be just because her weight is on the extreme side that the doctor has said you will need more to manage this. Her groceries were so bizarre. Like, the reason we said she's like a 2-year-old let loose in the supermarket is there's just no plan. She goes in, spends enough for basically a week's worth of groceries, but then comes out with a vague idea of like one shit tier meal she's gonna have. I don't know how I would live like that. Now, before I get into this, because there will always be people attacking, saying, well, she gets to eat what she wants. Of course she does. It's her money. It's your money. Spend it as much as you want, but you come online to try and get it. I'm going to comment on what you're wasting it on. And wasting is really the key word there, because she does start by justifying this grocery haul as, I don't want to waste a lot of food when I'm having trouble with my back or when I'm depressed because I'm not going to cook it and I hate wasting food. I do believe she'd be happy to eat everything that came out of the bag. I will give her that. But there's very few actual meals here. And I get that she's probably still got stuff in the cupboard, but really? If we look at her groceries, she has, before she starts the grocery haul, she tells Salah, I'm going to turn the AC down, I'm a little bit warm. She is wearing a cardigan. What are you doing? So she has 2 packs of like rusk biscuits and 1 free pack of chocolate cookies that came with it that she's going to try not to eat too many of. She has a couple of beef stock cubes and a bottle of Worcestershire sauce, whichever you prefer. She's got what seems to be 30 cans of iced tea. 24 of them are sugar-free. And then she's got 1 pack of full sugar for Salah. 2 packs of Edam slices, a little thing of cat food because they're running out, or they've run out. A pack of Werther's chocolate sugar-free candies, 2 rounds of like cheese triangles, a kilo of yogurt, 30 eggs, some Lipton black tea bags with cardamom, 4 packs of frozen chicken franks, 2 packs, I'm assuming 2 is all she got. She mentioned they were expensive, but she might have had more. Kraft mac and cheese dinners, which she's gonna have with the hot dogs. And then 4 containers, so 1 pack of UHT milk. She doesn't understand why the milk doesn't go bad. She's like, it just doesn't go bad, I don't get it. It's super pasteurized. It's designed to be shelf stable. I actually use the same kind because when I get fresh milk, it just goes off before I can use it. So I like being able to keep it in the cupboard, but once you open it, you should keep it in the fridge. She's got some laundry detergent, which is the one useful thing I can see in this haul. A multi-pack of chips. There are 6 flavors, so I'm guessing there are 24 bags of chips in there between the 2 of them. And she bought some cookware. Even if we minus the cookware, because that's obviously like a home purchase, that's absolutely fine and reasonable, I think. Like, we're still talking 19 Kuwaiti dinar, which is £49. Sorry, I've got notes. £49 or 62 US dollars or 85 Canadian or 93 Australian on what seems to be nothing. Like, yes, she's got the eggs and she's got the yogurt. I could see that forming a part of a meal. So maybe she could have eggs and chicken franks for breakfast. She's going to make a meal of the Kraft mac and cheese. I guess she put the 2 boxes together, but even if she didn't and had it as 2 separate meals, those seem to be all the meals she can make out of this. She does mention wanting to do a cottage pie or a shepherd's pie, I can't remember which is why she bought the Worcestershire sauce, but like, I don't know how you spend so much money on nothing. That's what I don't get. She's spending this much money on nothing, and it's her money to spend, and I know that she orders in as well, but I showed a grocery haul on here. I am still eating those groceries right now. I have been to the store to get some more coffee beans and another container of fruit squash, but that's it. So when you talk about waste, just looking at it is like, wow, what do you do with your groceries and your money? I know she actively rebels against any form of planning, but just coming up with a few meals she's going to eat in the next week and then deciding on whatever day would save her so much in the long run. But anyway, that's all I really have to say about that, other than the God almighty on her actual groceries. Let's go to the react. Now, the quality of this react isn't going to be very good, but by the time I edit it and put it up in the corner, you probably won't be able to tell very well. But because she's now deleted it, I went to download it from YouTube and I had to go get it from Twitter. Now, she seems fairly confident in herself over the course of this video, so why she would have had to take it down is clearly a mystery. Maybe she realised how dumb it made her look, who knows. I think it was 100% just there to try and poke engagement out of people, because she really hasn't been getting the response she's wanted to. We are almost at the end of the month, it's the 28th, so YouTube is going to start ratifying like on the 1st. So she's only got a couple more days to try and squeeze out some more money. When she started drawing people, she didn't really get a response. So she's hoping to bait them with this. But one thing I don't know, because I didn't see it before it was deleted, I don't know how many views this got, if it was going to make it worth it or not, because I imagine putting this out just gives her more trouble in the end, because what she's saying is pretty nonsense, and that means that people just come back and blast her for it. So she may have decided the views weren't worth it because she doesn't have that many good answers, but who knows. But with that in mind, let's get started.
Hi, welcome back to another video.
Hi, welcome back to another video. This is Foodie's ASMR voice, because she thinks that this makes the joke hers, and that people will not laugh at her if she pitches her voice this way. Unfortunately, as you tell through this video, she takes things very seriously, and therefore she cannot keep that out of her voice and out of her demeanour. And with that, let's come out of milk tea ASMR and go back to the video.
This video I call Telling Off Haters in my ASMR voice.
Well, actually, you called it Schooling Haters ASMR, but schooling is my specialty, not yours. You don't even like to learn.
So, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up.
No, thank you.
And let's get into it, shall we?
Well, who knows? Maybe I'd be massively impressed with her reasoning skills and I could have given it a thumbs up. However, as you're a coward and have now deleted it, there's going to be no opportunity.
Alright, so normally somebody who has an online presence and is well known would just ignore certain criticisms.
Yeah.
Now the thing
Normally.
is the community of reactors and critics and haters that orbit
Your planet?
myself, my being, are dumber, more ignorant, and more petty than most.
I would argue better research than most, which she takes as petty. But surely, if that were true, then that's more of a reason to ignore us than less. But here we are. Speaking of reasoning skills, the call to prayer has started, so if you do hear it, that's what the noise in the background is.
They're not normal reactors. They're not normal tea channels because...
Well, she's not really what you consider a normal person, so it takes a certain breed. You work your way up to Chantal in the long term.
They create tea when there is none. But there is something that I see going on.
Actually, to be completely fair to her, when she does go quiet, there does tend to be a bit of a frenzy, but it's more likely to turn on the community than it is to turn on her. It's all a bit of gossip at the end of the day.
Around that, I just want to correct and school people on, because there's a lot
That's
of
always been your
ignorance when it comes
specialty.
to eating disorders. People are picking apart my mukbangs. They claim to hate them, they don't like them, they can't stand the noises, whatever.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
now the tea on the mukbangs is that apparently every mukbang I do is massive and a binge.
That's not the tea. The tea is that you're killing yourself. That is the tea. The tea is, God damn, she has been crying about the state she is in, and this is the choice she's making. That is the tea. I will say here and now, every mukbang she has done on this channel is not a binge. Many of them have been overeating. Many of them have been binges. But there are a few that have not been, which I'm sure Foodie will hone in on for this example. Foodie is the queen of selective evidence.
Most of them are neither. So let me explain. I will use the KFC mukbang as an example.
Of course you will, because the KFC mukbang was 2 wraps and some cheese fries, which is not a healthy choice by any means, which is a dire choice considering your dietary needs, but was not as large or as obvious as some of the other mukbangs you've done very recently. The Jollibee mukbang, where you had 2 meals and some chicken and were complaining that it was too small, for example. The entire large or extra large, was it? I don't remember which, pizza that you ate recently. Hey, remember when Salah took us to go see, was it the Jarish, the cracked wheat thing? And when you were just eating some of the Jarish and some of the other thing and a little bit of bread, very reasonable meal, we happened to see the 3 paddles of rice that went into the meat and rice dish. And don't you sit there and tell me there were leftovers for days. I will not believe it.
Now, the KFC mukbang I just recently did today is neither a binge, and it is it's also not massive.
Double negative, nearly tripping her up there. I would say it was quite large, but you can argue 2 wraps and some cheese fries. Okay, no problem. What about all the others? Because I'm betting if I were to go through your channel right now, I could find some pretty terrible examples.
I will show you an example of a massive KFC binge.
Somebody on Twitter, which I have not verified, so that is the maximum of the expertise there, okay? I've not researched this. Somebody on Twitter said that this woman was a competitive eater. And so she does eat large amounts of food, but she's also careful with things around the mukbangs. I wouldn't argue that competitive eating is necessarily a healthy thing to do either, but it's a different situation than what she's doing. And she has done enormous mukbangs before this. But the trap that Foodie frequently falls into is saying, well, it could be worse, so I'm fine, or so it's good. And that's not the way it works. Congratulations, you are not the worst, if we're going to take the worst as the most amount of food, out there. But it doesn't mean your situation is fine.
Okay, as you can see, there are a couple of buckets of chicken, there is just a whole lot of food there, okay? And if you compare with my mukbang, I have 2 chicken wraps, which are large. Yes, I do comment that in my video. And I have one, it's actually an individual size of cheese fries, because you can actually get smaller size or family size, as you can see pictured here. Yes, I come with receipts.
Now, I do notice she put "we paid for regular" because that's not a receipt she's showing. She's just showing the menu. Let's see what other receipts we get, eh?
I don't think anyone would accuse this mukbanger of having a binge here on KFC.
I think anyone with any slight concern for her might mention that they're a bit worried about what she's consuming. But if she is a competitive eater, I guess in a way this would be like training. I don't know. I don't know her situation. And as Foodie says, we don't know her situation and she doesn't know the situation. And that would be a big difference, wouldn't it? Because we do know the situation with Foodie. And yes, context makes a difference. Foodie would like us to take what she says, an example she gives, in a complete vacuum because then it makes her example correct. But actually, life is more nuanced than that.
Because they're thin. So, there's the stigma right there, just because I'm overweight, that anything I eat that is not healthy, and I will acknowledge that the food I eat in mukbangs a lot of the time are not healthy. I use my mukbang as a means to eat things that most people think I shouldn't eat, and to eat things that are just not really obviously healthy.
I was just letting her finish that sentence for a minute. Yeah, you do. And that's the argument right there. Foodie has monetized her ability to eat. Anybody with any sort of maladaptive relationship with food is asking for trouble when they do that, because you are taking something that is very disordered within you, something that is very harmful to you, and you are monetizing it in such a way that it gives you a reason not to give it up. And we saw that recently when you said, hey, I'm not going to boycott Google. When you stopped boycotting altogether, in fact, I'm not going to boycott Google because they're my job. I work for them. I can't. It's not that it's not true. She's not qualified to do any other work in Kuwait. She can't work anywhere but online right now. But what I think she was trying to avoid saying there was eating things I shouldn't eat. And she changed it to things that people think I shouldn't eat. No, things that you know you shouldn't eat. Things that doctors have told you not to eat. And more importantly, for the sake of mindset and behavior and the psychology behind binge eating, things that you have said time and time again you are not going to eat because you were sobbing, praying, asking Allah for forgiveness. All those things that you just try and push to the side when you can't stop yourself from eating. And even now, when you do mukbangs, we see signs of that behavior. So the other day she was mentioning sunflower seeds. I think it's the barbecue sunflower seeds she gets. And she was saying how she massively overdid them and now she can't have them anymore. So the idea was she wasn't going to buy them, even though I think we've already seen her eat them since. So you recognized the food as being something you couldn't control. You said you were going to keep it out the house, and then you went and bought it because your need for it was more important than what you had said you were going to do. That is a lack of control around food. That is you not being able to stick to what you say, not because you're lying to us, but because you're lying to yourself. And then you're using, oh, well, I eat on camera as justification so that you don't have to follow that thought anywhere that could be productive.
You're right. That probably isn't a binge for her. Just because somebody is eating large quantities of food in one sitting does not mean that it is considered a binge in terms of binge eating disorder.
Tell you what, Foodie, because you were so good as to bring a receipt, let's go and look at binge eating disorder. So this is from, what's it called? The DSM-5, which I believe is the most up-to-date one for America. North America? Is it Canada as well, I guess? Specific definitions for each criteria for binge eating disorder. Criterion 1. Recurrent episodes of binge eating. An episode of binge eating is characterized by both of the following: Eating in a discrete period of time, e.g. within a 2-hour period, an amount of food that is definitively larger than most people would eat in a similar period of time under similar circumstances. We have seen her devour whole fast food meals inside of 9 minutes. It is a lot of food eaten very quickly, and to me, not every mukbang could have this criterion applied to it, but a lot of them could. B, a sense of lack of control over eating during the episode, e.g. a feeling that one cannot stop eating or control what or how much one is eating. This is a little more personal, and Foodie does go into this, but we have seen when she has been full and then she said, oh, let me just have a little bit more. Or when she's bought things in her grocery hauls that she said, oh, these are going to be for a treat, and then suddenly she's buying more because they're gone. Sometimes we see her eat those things on camera with an excuse of, well, I'm eating because it was really cheap. There was an offer on, it's how it's eaten here. Yes, they give a lot, it'll be for later, and then she clears it up. Criterion 2, binge eating episodes are associated with 3 or more of the following. Eating much more rapidly than normal. I would argue she does that in her mukbang. She eats very quickly. Eating until feeling uncomfortably full. We do know that she does that because she's complained of that before. However, we're talking right now not about her life in general, because she acknowledges that she has binge eating disorder, but about the mukbangs particularly. Now, for her, I think a lot of the time it does also get a bit confused with number 3 here, eating large amounts of food when not feeling physically hungry, because I don't think she recognizes her empty and full cues. Because, for example, when she ate that entire large or extra large pizza, she was like, oh, this didn't even fill me up, when the amount of food there would have to, but she's not receiving the signal in her brain that's saying you've got enough inside you. So her idea of what full is versus what uncomfortably full is, I think is 1, skewed because she eats so fast, the first criteria, that she can't always tell, and 2, kind of skewed because I think she associates, well, full means you can't eat any more instead of you're satisfied, which is a behavioral thing you would have to work on and experiment with. But that means even without looking at the other 2, those 3 would apply. And again, I'm just speaking about her mukbangs here. She does have some other ones, eating alone because of being embarrassed how much one is eating. She has told us before, and we've seen evidence before that applies to her real life. And feeling disgusted with oneself, depressed, or very guilty after overeating. We have seen her do huge mukbangs and say, this will be the last time. No, tomorrow I'm going to take it seriously. No, I recognize I can't do that. God, I feel awful. And like depression, she struggles with at all times. So sometimes we see it worse around food. Sometimes it's general and food is the result. Criterion 3, marked distress regarding binge eating is present. She has cried on camera. She has prayed to God asking forgiveness. She has gone to specialists and then come back weeping that there's no real help. It's only for anorexia. Her behavior, when she allows herself to think of it enough, distresses her. But when the need for food overwhelms that feeling and she just wants to do it, she just gets angry online. And we see things like this where, look, I'm going to smile, obviously fakely, to show you how dumb you are because you're questioning whether I should have this food or not. Despite the entire conversation around the damage food is doing to her being of her own making, her own sharing, her own volition. Criteria 4, binge eating occurs on average at least 2 days a week for 6 months, at least 1 day a week for 3 months. So 1 day a week for 3 months seems to be the latest definition, and she would more than qualify for that because she's basically on every day. And number 5 is just about not having another compulsory behavior that ties in with it. Now, to me, a lot of that can be applied to her mukbangs. Could it also be applied to her real life? Absolutely. But as an admittedly non-professional, just someone who can read and research, and I know Foodie likes her receipts, so I've brought them for her, that to me seems obviously applicable to what she shows us online. Just my opinion, because I'm not a professional. But how can you sit there and say, I have binge eating disorder, I know all about binge eating disorder. I've been diagnosed with it. But this incredibly unhealthy relationship with food and my behaviors around food that I'm showcasing here for money do not apply or cannot be applied to my binge eating disorder.
So I've explained this many times.
Yep, poorly every time.
But again, the community of reactors or haters or whatever, they are like talking to a brick wall.
Mirror, foodie, mirror. Just because you want something to be the case does not make it the case. And that goes for you and for me. You not wanting to acknowledge how ridiculous this argument is doesn't stop it from being ridiculous.
And once they've made up their mind about something about your life, they're always right and you're always wrong, no matter what you do. Even if you prove yourself, so, I'm always wrong.
Are we still in ASMR voice? Because it doesn't feel like we are. It feels like our emotions might be coming in.
And everyone knows best. Everyone's an expert in this and that.
I think there is an argument that everyone becomes an armchair expert in anything she brings up. I think I'm as guilty as this of anyone. But I think the reason people do that is because the things she tries to mislead about, and I won't say lie here, even though rule number one, Chantal lies. The things she tries to mislead about, she never really gives it credit for being as obvious as it is. And what she doesn't seem to realize is a lot of the things that she brings up and tries to argue out when she realizes, oh, this was a bad idea, are obvious enough and researchable enough that you do not have to be an expert to be able to say, hang on a minute, that doesn't seem right. Now, in terms of diagnosing her, she needs a diagnosing professional. Of course she does. But to say, well, these two things are unconnected doesn't require you to be a doctor. It requires you to have some basic common sense. Hey, these things seem really similar and there seems to be a very obvious connection about how one could make one worse. No, they're brick walls. Really? Really?
They know more about your life, how you feel, than you do your own. Isn't that something? That's a true phenomenon right there.
Not really. We're just more willing to accept the truth that we see than you are. It's often easier to see patterns when you're not the person trying to live with them.
Now, I want to school you a little bit on what a binge is for me. And binge eating disorder is very personal, and each individual would probably define what they consider a binge a little different.
Entirely possible that the way binge eating looks for every individual is different. When I binge eat, I always had a routine I went through. I had a thought process I went to. I had a certain amount of justification I did before I got to the supermarket, where I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go for something I need, and then I'd find something I needed, and I'm definitely not going to get the thing that I shouldn't be eating. And then by the end of it, I've bought it, and I'd be telling myself the whole way home, okay, this isn't going to be for now, I'm going to have one a day. Look, I'm justifying this is just a treat, it's fine. And then I'd go home and eat all of it. And that was always part of the process. That lying to myself to be able to get home with the stuff was always a part of my process. That might be different from Foodie. I don't imagine she walks anywhere. But binge eating disorder is diagnosable. It has criteria, as we have just discussed. So your binge eating disorder is not the unicorn you think it is. Because to be diagnosed, you would have to meet those criteria.
From the next person. I would say that there are some base foundations that if you look up binge eating disorder, that certain organizations will tell you, these are the signs, the symptoms, things like that. That could be included.
Where did she get this receipt from? It's not that information insights can be wrong. I'm saying, where has this come from?
Just kind of like when everyone has a flu, not everyone has diarrhea, not everyone has the same symptoms. So, basically, for me, and I told the doctor I've seen about this, just a reminder, I have been to a outpatient center for eating disorders.
Years ago, twice. She did not interact or engage with treatment for a long period of time. This is a disorder she spent a lifetime building. It will take a lifetime of management, and she doesn't want that. She wants a pill.
In Ottawa, when I lived there in Canada. Before that, I've seen a few therapists for a few sessions, quite a few sessions.
Not quite a few, a few. 3 might be the maximum she had, but I feel like it was 2. And then she stopped going.
I've been to inpatient therapy growing up as a teenager.
When she pretended to attempt to unalive herself because her mom had the gall to not want her to go out with an older boy with a pregnant girlfriend. And again, this woman is 40 years old. So I think she was in her mid-teens at that point. 25 years ago, she had inpatient for a separate issue.
And yada, yada, yada.
Yada, yada, none of this is relevant.
So I've read books on binge eating, brain over binge, the binge code, intuitive eating books.
She has read summaries of the chapters of those books.
I've downloaded countless calorie counting apps, and I've tried many diets.
None of which she kept to, and some of them based on what a ghost was telling the guy who wrote it.
But for me, a binge, when I enter binge mode, it's not just about how much food I'm eating. And I can tell you right now, you're not going to see me actually have a binge in terms of binge eating disorder.
This is really her sticking point, right? And so her point is a lot of the shame that you usually associate with binging, because a lot of people will do it privately. It's how I used to do it. I do this when I was on my own. For Chantal, that was true because we saw examples, and I think she might mention these soon, of her hiding evidence of binges, but has become rather murky with the idea of, oh, but I eat on camera. Because the way she eats on camera is not the way she eats in public. She didn't go to that Indian place and start like dripping food down her mouth. I'm of the opinion that by putting herself in the position where she's doing mukbangs, she can in a way bypass that uncomfortable response because she's put herself into a place where she can justify it. And that justification is a big step to her not having to deal with it. No, it was a meal, it was a mukbang, I was doing it for show. So this idea of show and shame is a very strange one within the setup she has, and is an example of something that's not perhaps completely unique to her, but is something you would have to consider in her situation that someone not mukbanging on camera maybe wouldn't bring to that situation. But it doesn't change the fact that the behavior is all tied up in it, just that she can excuse it more.
Which is when I binge eat on camera. There's a big difference between overeating and binge eating. And
she does both on camera. She overeats and she binge eats. How often has she gotten up and been like, oh, I've had this because I was craving it, because no craving can be denied. And oh no, I'll justify it because this 3 sentences of this chapter of this book I read said cravings must be honored. So actually I'm intuitive eating this, I'm not binging, so it's not a problem I have to deal with.
Difference is a very psychological one more than physical.
It's just the same thing.
It's psychological triggers that cause the physical binge eating. And in a mukbang, it's planned, it's calculated.
Where is it planned and where is it calculated? Because you wake up and you go, ooh, that sounds good, I'm going to eat that, and I'm going to eat it on camera so I can earn money and justify it. That's as much planning as goes into your mukbangs. Sometimes, not often, you might cook something.
It's done, there's a meaning to it, there's a reason for it. Mukbang is a huge thing on the internet. I'm not the only one, I'm not the only overweight one.
And there's another justification. Other people do it worse, so I'm not so bad. Other people do it worse. That doesn't make your situation good.
To do it, and I'm also not the only overweight one with health problems to do it as well. A lot of people don't talk about their personal lives. Usually mukbangers don't, a lot of them. So I understand the reception for that. People are concerned because I do talk a lot about my health problems.
Yeah, you do.
People know I have binge eating disorder. They know I
we
have
do.
diabetes.
Yep.
But what you don't know...
And different various organs currently failing you. Your liver, your kidney, your enlarged heart, your lungs, your blood pressure, and your diabetes. Your sciatica, your rapidly declining ability to move under your own power.
On a daily basis is other things that I eat throughout the day. You don't know how often I actually do binge eat, and you don't know whether allowing myself to eat these foods actually does help or not.
It doesn't help. We've seen your decline. I don't need to see behind the camera because I can see on camera. What you do on camera is enough. You are declining. And you do come on with stories of, oh, I ate all these sunflower seeds. Oh, I ate this. No, that's gone. Oh, I had these noodles.
With the actual binge eating. So I want to say that for me, a binge is, binge eating disorder is a psychiatric disorder. That's why
I agree.
When I went for outpatient treatment, I was, seen by a psychiatrist. I was put on Vyvanse.
That you did not continue taking because you didn't like the feeling of it, because apparently Coke was more effective.
Went through the rigmarole, and so it obviously didn't cure me.
Because you didn't do it. You started it and didn't persevere with it. And that's the problem every time. You've wasted so many opportunities for help.
I felt like the doctor didn't have as much experience with binge eating as they do with other eating disorders. And
can you imagine this woman walking into your surgery and not following your learned advice because she thinks she knows better? Because that's essentially what she's saying there. Oh, I didn't think the doctor was very good at this because I didn't like what he told me. How's that eating by hand size going for you?
That's because, again, if you have an eating disorder and you're obese and it shows, people just assume that you just overeat and you're just a pig. Basically, that's exactly how it goes.
I think she has got an incredibly nuanced and problematic relationship with food. I think her relationship with food could and should be studied. Foodie as a case study, quite interesting. I don't think that she is the way she is because she just overeats and is lazy. I think one of the reasons that she's so interesting is that you can trace this behavior back into the stories she's told us. You can see, usually more easily than she's able to, how one thing impacts another in a way that might be too difficult for her to want to process internally. Is she lazy? Yes. Did this come about because she's lazy? No. Does that excuse her from needing to address it and put the work in to fix it? No. Is that really the point? I guess not.
They don't think that you have disordered eating. And I'm here to tell you that regardless of what you think, it doesn't mean that you know.
Nobody is arguing that her eating is normal, whatever normal may be. No one out here with eyes, ears, or memory longer than a goldfish would tell you that she didn't have disordered eating. But again, this isn't about whether she's got a disorder. This is about whether mukbangs make it worse. And I would 1,000% agree that it does.
Okay, there's a big difference there, and you don't know what you're talking about. So for me, getting back to this, I go on tangents. For me, an actual binge is a psychological issue, and it's usually triggered by different things. But it's usually just a big, overwhelming urge.
Nothing to do with hunger. Yeah, we saw that in the criteria. Foodie doesn't do mukbangs because she's hungry, although she might be hungry sometimes. She does it because it earns her money. And she's said that before. She said on camera, if I weren't earning money for this, I wouldn't do it. She'd still do it in private, but that's not really the point here.
Accurately, it's hard to describe. It's a feeling. It's like a overwhelming feeling, and it's not something I would want to see myself do, and it's not something I would want to show people. Throughout my whole life, I've had this. I used to sneak food, hide it in my bedroom. I binge in secret. It's something that I hide. I mean, I've told...
But you don't anymore. You used to binge in secret, and then you found a way to earn money from it. A way that is competitive in its own way, because you are fighting for views on YouTube. You do have other mukbangers out there. I think one of the reasons that she finally admitted she wasn't boycotting was because she wanted more recognizable titles, because they're more likely to catch the eye if you recognize what the food is. That's just my opinion.
You guys the stories about the pizza boxes in my closet when I used to live with BB, you know? So it's like, I do it in secret. I don't do it as a mukbang.
Yeah, you do.
If I've ever, I think I've shown maybe a couple of binges as more of a vlog or like an educational thing, to be transparent and show you what it's like for me.
No, she used to, before she deleted her whole channel, she used to label her mukbangs as binge eating. She did it for the algorithm, so more people would pay attention.
I may not even have, I don't remember that far back about what I did.
It's okay, we do.
The video, if I did a video like that, but for a mukbang, no, it's not like that. A mukbang is a mukbang. So even if you see this lady here with this huge mukbang, it's probably still not a binge. I mean, I don't know her life, but...
Yeah, we don't know her life. And technically, as much as we know a lot about Chantal, we don't know everything about Chantal. Now, thin people and fat people can both have very disordered eating. So it's not about thin or fat, really. But if she were doing the same things that thin mukbangers were doing behind the scenes, wouldn't she be a thin mukbanger? Now, like I say, thin or fat is not the point. Her fat, her physical health, all the things attached that she's discussed and been really scared about and milked sympathy for, it's a side effect of this as an issue. I was watching Smokey Steve and Mark a little while ago, and I think Steve has a good perspective on this because he has a history of binge drinking and he's been sober for a long time. But he said, you know, if he came on camera and he was like, oh guys, this is going to be cocktail hour, I'm going to try different drinks. And no, this isn't binge drinking because I used to drink mouthwash or whatever it is he used to do. It wouldn't change that the behaviour was massively concerning as somebody with an alcohol problem. Foodie has a food problem, and this is how she makes a living.
Just because there's lots of food doesn't mean that it's a binge, okay? So
actually, according to the criteria, hang on, where are we? Eating in a discrete period of time, an amount of food that is it definitively or definitely here? Definitely larger than most people would eat in a similar period of time under similar circumstances. That is number one on the list.
Anyway, I would, just get massive quantities of food when I'm alone, when I'm feeling a particular way. Sometimes you just feel the binge urge come on.
Okay, so not connected to hunger. Again, we know she's got binge eating disorder. This isn't an argument that she doesn't have it, which is where she's trying to take this video. This is an argument that mukbangs play into it, and I don't see how you could come to any other conclusion.
And I don't really know how to describe it other than that. And it's very hard to control. It's very hard to fight. I mean, if it wasn't, there wouldn't be anyone with this disorder, right?
You order in food 1 to 2 times a day, which is an excessive amount, and you eat it on camera for money. Any binges you're doing in private around that are down to you. But essentially you're saying, well, I'm going to eat all this food, and because I'm telling you I'm going to eat it, it's not a binge. Whereas if I turned off the camera and ate it, it would be. It's the same amount of food.
It's notorious for being hard to fight, you know? So for example, like, if I was alone previously, I would just start eating anything I could grab. Like, sometimes I would even just eat like anything, literally. Like, I one time ate relish, like, because there was dill relish in the...
Not relish on your burger. That's me being a bit silly, but we know this isn't a very good freeze frame, sorry. We know she's told us about it. We've seen her set up a conveyor belt directly from all the bags around her to mouth, because she can't wait to put the food away in the cupboard to start eating it on live, which is one of the reasons she has so many snacks in her grocery hauls.
Fridge, and that was the last thing I could binge on. You know, like 3 to 4 packets of noodles.
How's those Kraft mac and cheese gonna last? She said she bought 2 packs of noodles for treats the other week, didn't she? And then she ate them almost immediately.
Ramen, 5 little bags of chips, a whole tray of cheese, a whole block of cheese. And just
think again for a moment what her grocery haul was.
Just mindlessly autopilot, just not even thinking about it. And then after you binge eat, you have this more psychological side effect of just this overwhelming feeling of guilt and like shame and just ickiness.
She always feels icky when there's a feeling she doesn't want to define because it might get too serious for her. We see all these behaviors. Now, she doesn't want to admit to them on a day-by-day basis, but if you look at the Chantal cycle, if you look at how she turns like that, it personifies these symptoms. The only difference between that and the mukbang she does is how she's able to justify in her head. That is the difference, because instead of feeling icky, she gets to go on with it a little while longer under the guise of, well, it's my job. Until finally she's in the dark begging to God to let her live, and she goes, okay, I need to go on a diet, and we'll get a couple of mukbangs that are healthy food. And then because she has binge eating disorder, she'll turn around and be like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not talking to you about any private things. Shut up, you're stupid haters. Let me school you on what this means, when actually we can see perfectly from this example what it means.
You know, you cringe at yourself and you're like, you feel defeated. It's this overwhelming feeling of defeat and hopelessness, and that you don't have control over your own self. And you don't understand it. And it's a totally different, dark feeling. It's a dark place. And it's not my mukbangs at all.
I'm not about to go through all her mukbangs again and find these examples, because the time it would take. But we have seen her looking defeated at her mukbangs. We've seen her rage mukbangs when she used to get McDonald's breakfast. We've seen her emotions come out in her mukbangs, but she's made them mukbangs. They are intertwined. You cannot separate them.
My mukbangs are planned. They are mostly calculated,
In what way? I woke up, I wanted this, I was like, ooh, I was craving it, and I ordered it. That's no different than me walking to the supermarket going, oh yeah, I'll just get that bar of chocolate, and I'll separate it out and I'll have it as part of this. You order it. That's the only difference.
Sometimes no, but trying to do better with that. They have a purpose.
With the chocolate cookies you just brought into the house? And 24 packs of chips to go with it, when you've just said that you'd eat multiple bags of chips? How are you helping yourself here?
And they're not the same at all. If I overly restrict myself, it's a disaster,
I'm gonna binge so I don't binge.
for binge eating. My life needs to be more structured and everything like that. Yes, I know that.
But you won't do it.
But I have a million problems, but binge eating in a mukbang is not one of them.
Ooh. I was going to say respectfully, I disagree. I don't have that much respect for it, if I'm completely honest, but respect for the people who struggle with this disorder. I know the feeling of not being able to stop yourself. I know the mental gymnastics you will do to get yourself out of this, because the ability to bargain with yourself is incredibly strong. And you think you're gonna be able to get away with it, and then you finish it, and that post-binge clarity hits you like a brick. We are that brick. Her audience is the post-binge clarity, the post-mukbang clarity that she's desperately trying to avoid, and that is why she's angry. Because if she's angry at us, she doesn't need to be angry at herself.
And for it to be called a binge is very misleading to people, and it's wrong. It's false information.
I don't agree.
Complete bullshit.
Based off the evidence we have seen, I would entirely disagree.
And, my KFC mukbang was massive. Wow. I don't know if it's a camera angle.
I mean,
or what?
Let's let her just be sarcastic for a minute. It could be the camera angle because you put it here. It could be the camera angle. You do angle yourself to make food look bigger. Make a list of the other things you have eaten in this past week. Go through your mukbangs. Go through your meals. See what you ate around it. Don't tell us. Do it for yourself. Don't share it online. But if you were ever honest with us or with yourself, you would be able to see this.
But I don't know if people don't watch my mukbangs till the end either, because I didn't finish the food. I had one of the wraps. I had a few bites of the second one, and I didn't even finish the cheese fries.
All right. What else did you eat? What else have you eaten this week? What about last week? Go look at your actual history of consumption, not what you plan to eat. Not dreaming is a form of planning. Go and look in the past month what you've eaten, because if you were keeping accurate records of that, you would be more concerned.
I really don't know where that was massive. I mean, comment below if you can eat a whole wrap and have...
That's the only thing I've showcased this month, you guys. If you can eat a whole wrap, look how ridiculous people are.
Cheese fries. I really, really just think it's just complete BS and stupid and misinformation, and it's false, and it's a desperate attempt at content.
All of this could also be internalized by her in a way that she won't.
And it's really just at this point, these people are just like dingleberries, and they just don't fall off, and they need to be.
That's enough of your personal hygiene. Thank you. That's not something most people deal with.
Dropped into the toilet and flushed away, because that's where you belong, in the crapper. Your content is crap. It's desperate.
But our content is reliant on your content. So if it's crap and it's desperate, where's that coming from?
I have every right to do mukbangs and eat just like everyone else. Even
we're losing the ASMR voice again. You have every right. You have every right to make money eating, making mukbangs. You have every right. I am not denying your right to do that. You are an adult. You get to exchange longevity for YouTube. I'm not going to deny you that right, but I'm also not going to say that I can't talk about it. If you showcase it, I can discuss it, and you do showcase it.
If I have diabetes, even if I have a binge eating disorder, because none of you are doctors and none of you are are experts on an eating disorder.
No, none of us. Well, I don't know if maybe some of us in the community are, but we're not her doctor regardless. She's right about that. None of us can stop her. Like, we've seen her go to qualified doctors, people who are her doctor, who hear her history, who do her tests, and ignore them because she thinks she knows better. Even if we were any of those things, the only person who can stop her is her, and she ain't doing that. So is this likely to be a story that has an abrupt ending? Probably. But so long as you're putting it on screen, I'll watch it.
And I'm sure if you were, you wouldn't be in Gore World. You probably have a life and an education. But
I have both. I'm still here.
This is why I've decided to keep my personal life offline, because...
Is that what this is? Talking about your binge eating disorder and showing your blood sugars on camera? Is that an example of you not talking about this?
Despite the mukbangs, my blood sugars are still the same. They're more than cut in half than what they were.
They're 11.9, taking 150% of the medication you're supposed to be taking. You started taking the medication you should have been on. Your blood sugar is still higher, fully medicated, than it should be. That means at this point, while you're not at 24 and about to fall into a coma, you are still not managed because your sugars are still not normal.
They've gone from 24 mmol down to 11, and that's
11.9 this morning? Or it might have been 11.6
sometimes
actually.
They're 9, sometimes they're 10, but not usually higher than 11. And
wasn't she higher than 11 this morning? And she did say, oh, hang on, is she about to say?
Is a big improvement, and I still have time to get it down even more.
The mukbang's going to help with that, are they?
You don't see the little efforts I do throughout the day and stuff like that. So you don't know. But because you don't know, Anyway, that's what I wanted to...
I thought she had said in here, but maybe it was in the live, she had said the lowest she gets is 10. But she thinks once or twice it might have been 8 when she was taking the fiber drink, the 3 grams of fiber drink she takes, because she hasn't been doing that regularly either. And my argument for that is, like, when she was doing the drink, she was also scared out of her mind and eating properly, or she was showcasing herself eating like salads and diet food and things like that, which would have had an impact on her blood sugars. But now she's not. Now she's eating takeout and other things that are designed to spike her blood sugar in large amounts. So saying I still have time is a comfort for you, but has no real bearing on the truth.
Basically rant about is just all of the misinformation. Nobody makes an educated video whatsoever on actual accurate information.
Really? Like the menu you just cut onto the screen with the assurance that no, I always tell the truth, we ordered the regular? That kind of evidence, that kind of education. I'm still waiting for that school bus, Foodie.
So I'm telling you from, having this my whole life, what a binge is for me. And honestly, no strangers on the internet have the right to tell me what a binge is. No.
You put it on the internet, strangers get to comment on it. That's what gives me the right. You don't have to listen to it. You can say, hey, you may be educated, you're not educated in this. Hey, you may have researched this, but I don't agree with your research. We can have differing opinions, but the fact is you ignore the educated, informed people that do your tests, and then you put it online. So here we are.
When it comes to my eating disorder, that's exactly the bottom line. And
okay, well,
it's just BS. So anyway, the worst thing is a lot of people criticizing what I eat. Mm-hmm. If they had the gall and the nerve to show themselves,
hi there,
and their life, they eat the same thing. I mean, you're going to tell me you never eat a dish of fries with one wrap?
No, I'm not going to tell you that. Of course I'm not going to tell you that. I'm overweight myself. Clearly I have not cracked the code. But I am going to tell you, as someone who has struggled with their weight, that I see you. I see your behaviours. I recognise my behaviours within you. And I know the other choices you can make, and I know they're harder. If you want an example of the things I eat, go watch my grocery haul. That is what I'm eating at the moment. Has that always been the case? No. But I do get on camera And I do, most of the time, a little bit of research, or I speak from experience.
That's massive? Okay. I know people don't agree with my eating style, but I'm not ever going to be one to, and I've decided this after trying these diets, after just failing after fad diet after fad diet. I'm not ever going to completely cut carbs. I'm not.
Right, we're not asking you to. I think a doctor might, depending on how bad your diabetes was, because you are at 11 point something, it might not be 11.9, it might be 11.6 or whatever it was, fully medicated, and therefore lifestyle has to have an impact on that. And you said yourself you got down to 8 or 9 when you were eating differently. So stop the fad diets and start eating a reasonable diet. Start listening to the educated, qualified doctors who tell you what to eat. Because you cannot tell me any of those doctors told you eat fast food mukbangs every day.
We're going to fully, completely cut junk food and go vegetarian, keto, carnivore. I'm not going to do it. So
she's the one who said she was going to go vegan multiple times because she went vegan when she lost that weight when she was a teenager.
I don't know how many mukbang videos or how many things you're going to see me eat that you have to keep bitching about, but it's just, it's beating a dead horse at this point.
The horse is bitching at me through the screen. She is very much alive for now.
I mean, I don't know. I guess it sells, but
well, you would know. You're the one selling it.
I was just coming here to tell you that you're not right about my videos. They're not a binge.
You know, you could have done that a lot quicker. We're at an hour.
And a lot of them are not massive.
Most of them are large.
A lot of the time I don't even finish my food. Sometimes I do.
A lot of the time you don't show yourself finishing food. And then a lot of the time you show a backup sandwich.
Sometimes I don't, you know. But there are mukbangers who eat way more. People bigger, people my size, people thinner.
Irrelevant. All that shows is that disordered eating can be shown, can be experienced in a number of different ways. And all it shows is people without disordered eating that are able to produce mukbangs as a professional piece of work content do work outside of their mukbangs to ensure that it doesn't impact their health. Neither of those things apply to you.
And you don't know. Maybe those people who are thin have binge eating disorder.
Maybe they do.
But they don't gain weight for whatever reason. Maybe they purge. Maybe they just work out a lot. That's a form of restricting, is excessive.
Yeah, it can be. Or it can just be behavior to recognize, hey, I took in 2,000 calories and maybe it's too much for me. The important thing here, foodie, is that you do not do those things.
Of exercise. But you don't know. So why speak about something serious like that you don't know about?
Because you put it online. Why make mukbangs around something so serious?
People who are thin and have binge eating disorder would not be criticized that way.
If they were binging, if they were talking about how they binge, if they were crying about their hair falling out because they were restricting at other times and then binging and purging on camera, yeah, people would have something to say about it. Now, I will fully say that the things that are in the TOS in terms of mimicable behavior and not showcasing these disorders seem to apply more to the dangerously thin than the dangerously overweight, because it's so much harder to pin down the reasons why that's happening, and they can be so multifaceted. So it's unlikely that YouTube is ever going to step in and say, nope. But maybe that's one of the reasons that she deleted this video to begin with, because she doesn't want videos of her talking about it online. I don't know if she's gone back and deleted the others or not.
You know, it's very unhealthy for them too. It's not healthy. It's not a healthy thing to have that disorder, big or small.
No one's arguing it is. If anything, everyone's up here saying, oh my goodness, do you see how unhealthy you are? Do you see the danger you're putting yourself into?
So, anyway, I don't care.
You do
think
care.
what you want.
It's okay, but you do care.
But the misinformation is just out of this world. So I wanted to come on here and correct that. And
correct the idea that you have a binge eating disorder? No one's confused.
And just let you know personally what a binge is for me in regards to binge eating disorder. And also just call you out, call those of you who are, oh my gosh, that's a massive portion, I could feed my family of 8. Well, then you need to have your family, given to someone else, because you're underfeeding them. If your family of 8 can eat 1 wrap, you have something wrong with you. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm done with my bitchy video, and thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Remember, bitchiness is not a video, it's a state of mind. So I'm sure we'll see her again. All right, I am actually done with my video though, because that's gone on way longer, and I'm really hoping I can cut this down, because it's going to be a long one. Some people like the longer ones, but yeah, there we are. All right, I'm going to leave you there. Thank you so much. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.